Echo finally picked me up.
Cheers, boys!
I'm absolutely terrified after seeing
Show
him.
them how I like driving.
Yeah, after seeing Echo drive in DayZ, my life is on the line.
Show the wheel.
Yeah. BMW. Eventually it's gonna glitch out and we're both gonna be uncaught. Okay, before I get too far into this video, there's two things I want to address. First, thank you so much to Echo and his family for, putting me up for 5 days. I offered to pay them. They wouldn't let me pay for anything while I was staying with them. They literally took care of me like I was family. And in the modern day, that's super rare. I'm some random guy on the internet who watches his live streams, and they took me into their house, picked me up when I was having a rough time, brought me to their house, let me stay there as long as I needed to stay there, wouldn't let me pay for anything, even though I tried. I genuinely tried. They weren't having it. They treated me like I was long lost family, and I don't know the words in English to express how grateful I am to Echo and his family for everything that they've done. So you guys have my undying respect. Anytime you come to Colorado, no matter what, I'll be there at the airport. I got extra rooms for you. Anything you guys ever need, ever, don't hesitate to ask. You guys did everything for me, so I'm willing to do everything for you. Second is Echo doesn't show his face on his streams. So a lot of the videos that I took were sort of videos, for me. I wasn't really expecting to release them, or it was from, his village or things like that. So I filmed them as YouTube shorts. But now that I've learned how to blur faces in Premiere Pro, I've decided to actually make this a legitimate video. So the formatting for a bunch of the clips, there's some black on one side or the other, because I did film them in portrait mode, not landscape mode, as I should have, because at least for the most part, I was pretty drunk, so I wasn't really thinking. And then the other ones I filmed as YouTube shorts. And to give you just an idea of how drunk we all got the first night, at some point, which I didn't record this, at some point, me and Echo's friend had to strip Echo down to his boxers and carry him onto his bed because he puked all over the place. So just a little bit of insight going into this video. It was a wild night. It was a wild time. I literally can't say enough about the hospitality and generosity of Echo's family. Literally, if it wasn't for them and what they did for me, I wouldn't have been able to finish this trip out. I was suffering. If you've watched all my previous videos, I was suffering a pretty significant injury that was really hampering my riding. And if it wasn't for the hospitality that they gave me and letting me stay there for as long as they let me stay there, I wouldn't have been able to finish this trip, and it would have gone very horribly for me. So yeah, Echo, you're a legend. I'm not going to say your family's last name, but the Echo family, you guys are some of the best people on the entire planet. Thank you. And let's get into the rest of the video. Once we got to Echo's house, the first order of business was prepping for dinner. I met this really lovely little pup, and Echo, when you watch this, if this dog is still around and it doesn't belong to somebody, please let me know and I will do what I can to come back. But we made the preparations for dinner, and then the drinking started. The first night was pretty wild. We had a lot of beer, a lot of rakia, and on my first cup of rakia, I shot it like you would a normal shot, and then Echo informed me that no, you do not shoot rakia, you sip rakia. However, later on in the night, Echo was shooting Rakia like crazy, and by the end of the night, his friend and I had to carry him to bed after he vomited several times. We hung out, laughed, joked, talked about whatever we could. His one friend didn't speak any English, but Echo's a very effective translator, and we listened to some of Yugoslavia's finest music.
Miki boy, brother! Živeli!
Živeli, brother!
Amerika, Amerika, zemlja velika, ali metar moj. Rekao, nije odgovorio na to. Kažem, nije odgovorio na to.
And your health, you know? Let's go. Da smo živi i zdravi.
Mi se volimo, o ljubavi naše, ničeg nema slađe, ničeg nema slađe.
Imagine now 4 people singing it or 5 people singing it.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that.
Da mu ne pustimo 2 kofera.
I mean,
Na kraj.
Bibi, he just said the best song ever. That is my song. When I hear that song, brother, I became wild. I cannot describe what I'm doing. I will not tell you. He knows what I can do when I
Became wild.
become
Kaj si mu rekao, nema pesmu koju ne znam.
Ma rekao sam mu poludim kad čujem tu pesmu. To sam mu rekao. Pa nije li tako? Pa nije tako.
Nemoj da mu pustaš, ću skinem već.
Nemoj zebi. You know what he said? He said, don't play it, that song. I will put my shirt down.
Livade da ti sveti selo maleno, šešareno.
The following morning, while Echo was sleeping off his hangover, I chose the opposite approach. I chose to embrace it and keep feeding it. So I walked down to the city center of the town that he lives in. I saw these older gentlemen sitting at a table, and I sat at the same restaurant, different table, and I told the waiter, like, hey, I wanna buy these guys a round of drinks. And instead of the waiter just, letting me buy the round of drinks, he immediately went and told these guys that I bought them the round of drinks. And upon them learning that I tried to buy like 5 of them a round of drinks, they invited me to their table. One of them spoke a bit of English and the rest just Serbian. So we spent, I don't know, from 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m. just passing around my phone with Google Translate, just talking via Google Translate, and it was awesome. They were starting to get a little upset that I was buying the rounds because the guy who spoke a bit of English is like, no, this Serbia, you are guest. We buy you drinks. And I would just sneak into the restaurant and tell the waiter, like, hey, next round on me, and give him the cash. And yeah, so I bought probably 3 rounds for these guys. They ended up buying me a bunch of rounds. And I think the 3 rounds for everyone in this picture was about $12 US. It was a good time. And I think around 2 p.m., 3 p.m., I sent a message to Echo. He was like, where are you? And I told him where I was at. And he came down, and yeah, it was a really good time. I think we left that bar around 3 p.m. and I was feeling it. I'll put it that way. I'm up here in the hills of southern Serbia in a small little village. It bears a striking resemblance to sort of the hilly regions of like Belize, like South America. Barbecue's super popular. The food is obviously spiced different, but a lot of the same food preparation methods and a lot of the same, meats and things like that. The architecture looks very similar. Super lush and green. which is a little different than back home in Colorado. But people are super friendly, and yeah, it just feels like South America almost. And not just because it's super hot and humid. It's pretty nice. Later that evening, we went to the town of Leskovac, and apparently there was a huge barbecue festival going on. I had no idea. I just showed up at apparently the right time, and we walked around this festival, had some really, really good barbecue, and something that I had never had before that is actually really, really amazing, something called Pleskovica. It's like a hamburger, but all the toppings that you would normally have are inside of the burger itself, like inside of the patty. It was super good, and yeah, it was a great time. Food was unbelievable. Apparently, even the president of Serbia was in town to, I don't know if consecrate is the right word, but for the opening of some very big sports field. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was a really good time. Being a morning person, I usually wake up a lot earlier than everyone else, so while Echo and his family were asleep, I would sit out on the front porch and go wander the town and just do a bit of exploring. It's a really small village, and it's in a spot of Serbia where not a lot of people go to, so being a foreigner in this town, everyone was usually, I don't know if shocked is the right word, because it's, they treated me really, really well, but it was a novelty. It was something that wasn't common to have somebody who only speaks English, some American guy in this little town in Serbia. It was definitely a novelty to him, and yeah, I had an absolutely lovely time just walking around and exploring on my own. Eventually, we went to this old abandoned castle fortress thing, which was really cool to see. And yeah, we didn't really do a whole lot because it was so hot during those days, but hung out, had a really good time, and I healed up from my saddle sore injury, and yeah, they treated me very, very well. I have nothing bad to say about the town or Serbia or anything. And again, Echo and your family, thank you guys so much for your hospitality. I legitimately don't think I would have been able to complete this trip without you guys. So thank you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.